Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight, Thursday, December 1st, 2022, our regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting. I call our meeting to order and ask that we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our next section of the agenda is our public comment section. This section of the agenda is reserved for people in attendance who wish to briefly address the board. The board requests that comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. People wishing to comment should type comment and your name in the chat box and you will be recognized.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you skipped over item number 3 just before public comment.
I apologize. We'll go back. I'm sorry. Additions and changes to the agenda. And I believe you already had one, Andy, correct?
Yeah, so I'm asking the Board of Selectmen approve taking item 6B off of this agenda, which would be the acting town clerk appointment, and add it to the next agenda. There's still a little bit more work that needs to be done. So we're not ready to discuss that tonight.
Okay. Anybody have any problems or issues with that?
Nope, makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Tiffany? Mark? Okay, I guess we're all set on that one.
Yeah, makes sense to me too.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I apologize. Now back to our public comment.
Kevin Tulamiri has a public comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Tulare.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for your time and attention. And as you can see in your agenda, I sent in a letter that starts on page 19 of the agenda with an outline of some issues that, as requested, at last meeting, you wanted me to send in some information relating to the Public Works project. So I hope the board and the public have an opportunity to look through that, specifically page 63 of the agenda, a letter from Professor Robert Thorson of the University of Connecticut regarding the historic nature of the property at 17 Kinney Road. And also page 90 of the agenda, a letter that was submitted to the Public Building Committee that explores options, as I would say, feasible options for alternative plans for the Public Works site. But I'd also like to add, please, that the risk of salt contamination is real. And in that outline on page 19, there's a link to the 2018 Board of Selectmen meeting of Woodstock, Connecticut, where they are dealing with a groundwater contamination from road salt storage of the DOT state facility in their community. And that I would suggest that the state certainly follows best management practices in their facility, and however the contamination still occurred and spread rapidly. Also included in my letter and the outline is a attachment of the best management practices provided by the DEEP, which states specifically that a salt storage facility should not be placed in an area with GA groundwater unless other options are not feasible. I do believe there are many other feasible options, and that proposing to place this facility at this location is in itself a violation of best management practices. Someday that facility will be old, someday it will be outdated, but the high water table will exist, the fractured bedrock, the wetlands, and our drinking wells will all still be there. Whether it's 10, 20, 30, 50 years, someday that salt water will affect the groundwater in that area. I also like to point out the Board of Selectmen in your mission statement acts as stewards of the town, agents of the people, while preserving our historic rural character. And that letter from Professor Thorson on page 63 of the agenda outlines some very important aspects of the area that date all the way back to the Mohegan Sachem Adawanhood and his gift of the entire town of Hebron to his English friends. In Sarah Holmes's archaeology report on page 40, she notes, for National Register Criteria B pertaining to the association with the land to prominent individuals such as Judge Sylvester Gilbert and to the Levi Backus families, the APE may fall within this category. And I don't believe the town has taken any steps towards identifying or exploring that eligibility for the National Register, which I do believe is strong. In fact, on August 15th, the State Historic Preservation Office wrote a letter that states, quote, SHPO agrees with the need for identification and documentation of important historical figures, parties associated with the 86-acre development parcel. As a result,
Mr. Tullamere, your time is up. Please summarize and finish up. Thank you.
okay, yes, thank you. There is important information. As a result, SHPO recommends that the town complete additional background and title search of the entire proposed development parcel prior to the onset of construction to make a recommendation of National Register eligibility for the entire property. I would urge the town to go forward with that and explore that before construction begins and before any more plans are made in that direction to save us all time and money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public comment is from Greg Shortell.
Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. Greg Shortell, 22 Kenny Road. My comments are in support of the very clear and concise, detail-filled letter that Kevin Tullamere submitted to the committee. I think he's done a great job in describing the concerns that all of us in this immediate area have about this project and this proposal. And I think those concerns are very far-reaching beyond just the immediate neighborhoods that surround this parcel. One of the things that I want to reiterate or restate that Kevin included in his letter is the testimony and the input that we were able to gather from Mr. William Warzicka. He came to us unsolicited as an expert in, he's an expert hydrogeologist with over 30 years experience working for the state. And his primary reason for talking to us and presenting his input was his concern over what he read about the proposal of this project and the parcel that it's going to be put on. He has no other vested interest in this area in the town of Hebron. He lives in Norwich. So his passion about the environment and the effect that road salt, sodium chloride, can have on groundwater is his reasoning for reaching out to us and talking to us on his own accord. So I really think that should carry a lot of weight in the decision and the committee's decision to continue to look at other solutions for this project. In the last town committee meeting, Peter Casper mentioned a plan B. And I hope that tonight we can hear more about what the committee has talked about and or are considering as a plan B or other alternatives to 17 Kenny Road. As Kevin has clearly stated and done his research on and has provided lots of good facts and details on, this is pristine property that really doesn't deserve to have a facility or a 2+ ton salt shed installed on it. So please take all of the information that's been provided into consideration, and we look forward to a plan B and other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next public comment is Andrea Latanzi.
Good evening, Chairman and board members and all the attendees. I'd like to thank the board for the keeping the Public Works Building Project tab on the website updated. It looks great, and I see that you've added all of the pertinent and most recent letters and documents, so they're easy to access. So thank you for doing that. My public comment this evening is involving feasibility options, our options for feasibility and Plan B. And in several of the meetings I've attended over the last few months of the BOS, PNZ, and Public Building Committee, conversation has been about feasibility options, parcels of land, pros and cons, working through a plan such as that. So, and also that this project has been on the plate for many, many years. So I was interested in learning more about what happened to say 10 years ago, what was being discussed, what were the options at that time. So I was able to find a Hebron Public Building Committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, March 26, 2013. And the conversation taking place then with the DPW director and the town planner, and they're saying that they've been working together on a 10-year plan of conservation and development. And the specific thought at this time in regards to the DPW facility was to relocate the majority of the operation to the Burnt Hill Park. Specifically, the garage and maintenance would be moved to the park, with the facility being added to what already exists at that location. However, the facility on Old Colchester Road would be still maintained to support activities such as a fueling station, cold storage, transfer station. It goes on, the minutes go on to state, it was noted that the original land acquisition plan for Burnt Hill Park had included provision that part or all of the DPW operation would eventually be relocated to that site. And another comment is that through the DPW director, with his plan to use treated salt as de-icing agent during the winter months, there would be less in and out of trucks at that particular site. And just a couple of other comments that I believe are important to this conversation is that the fundamental and this is from May 28th, 2013 minutes of the same committee. The fundamental question that will need to be answered is whether 5 to 8 acres will adequately support a DPW project at Burnt Hill Park. The town planner indicated that the committee should look at viability of using Burnt Hill Park for the facility. A selectman member indicated that one fundamental question needs to be answered. It's whether they can split operations for, using this as a feasibility of an option or a plan B. So after reading those comments, I'm interested in learning or knowing why this particular plan is not up on top as Plan B or even as Plan A. I would think that this plan would best comply with the Connecticut DEP best management practices in protecting the Raymond Brook watershed and the residential wells in that area that have the potential for being contaminated with salt and other components from putting a DPW facility there. So those are my comments for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have another one, Amanda Veneziano for public comment.
Good evening, Board of Selectmen and everyone who's here this evening. First, thank you for taking the time to go over the Board of Ed candidates this evening. It is exciting that we had so many people interested in these two seats, so that's great to see so many people ready to step up for public service. The RTC, I am the chair of, and unfortunately we were not able to meet on Monday evening due to quorum issue, so we did not put someone through. We do not have an endorsed candidate for the Republican Town Committee, and I do apologize to the selectmen that we were unable to do that. On a personal note, I would like to take a moment and personally endorse Keith Pettit. Keith was, and I ran for the Board of Ed together, and he had to step down due to a conflict of interest with work, and so really this seat would put him back in the seat that the public voted him into. And he, that year, was the highest vote getter for the Board of Ed candidates. So I do believe Keith Pettit deserves to get back onto the board. This is a great opportunity that now that his work situation has changed and it's no longer a conflict, I think it's great that Keith can get put back into where the public wanted him to be. And then I did also want to endorse Sarah Capolino. In my conversations with her about the seat, it's just great that she is stepping up and, you know, wanting to get involved in public service. She's also made several comments to me about how the town is a whole and the school does not act as a vacuum for the budget, and it kind of, they all play together. So I thought that was great to have someone stepping up that was looking at the whole town. As we know, you know, the school population is not where it used to be, and we do have older members of the town that we need to think of as well. So I thought that was great, and I think Sarah would be a free thinker, great member of the Board of Ed. So tonight I wanted to personally endorse Sarah and Keith for those seats. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another? Donna?
It looks like that's it for now.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for their comments. Okay. Our next section would be our good to know special recognition. And this is again for Hebron Business Spotlight and Public Service announcements, learning to speak tonight. We actually have a couple of things going on. One, there's a Board of Selectmen statement, and I would ask if Tiffany Thiele would read that, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll read it off the screen. Statement of the Hebron Board of Selectmen, December 1st, 2022. The Hebron Board of Selectmen is profoundly saddened by the recent incident at Ram High School where a noose was discovered in the boys' locker room. We take a stand against any form of hate or intimidation in our community. There is no place for hate in Hebron. We call upon all Hebron residents, students, businesses, organizations, houses of worship, and schools to commit to working to eliminate discrimination, prejudice, intolerance, bigotry, and acts of hate, violence, and intimidation, and promote goodwill, cooperation, and understanding in the Hebron community.
Thank you. I think enough. I think it says everything that needs to be said. So, thank you. Andy, you wanted our next?
Yes, so next we have our superintendent of the Ram High School, Colin McNamara. He's been on a couple of agendas. He's a busy guy, so he's been trying to get here, just introduce himself to the Board of Selectmen and the public. He has no comment on that statement. He's here just to welcome. We're here to welcome him and him to introduce himself to us. So without further ado, I believe Colin's on here with us tonight.
I am, Andy, and thank you so much for that welcome. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the support of the Hebron Board of Selectmen. I'll just simply say RAM is committed to creating and maintaining an educational environment that is physically, emotionally, and intellectually safe and free from forms of harassment from students. Our priority continues to be the well-being of the entire RAM community. Really, the purpose of my meeting, of my attending the Board of Selectmen meeting tonight, is to just simply make progress in my goal of introducing myself and getting to know elected officials of the towns of Andover, Hebron, and Marlborough. As Andy said, I have been trying to get to be able to attend one of the Board of Selectmen meetings for Hebron for quite some time, and Andy and I have continually tried to coordinate the schedule, and then ultimately conflicts pop up. And so my apologies for not being able to get to attend one of these meetings earlier. You know, while I'm new to the district, I know that there is a strong commitment in each of the 3 towns to support the middle and high school students at RAM. And I look forward to working with members of your board in that effort, and encourage any of you to reach out to me directly if you ever have any questions or concerns. And I really look forward to working with the Board of Selectmen. You know, Andy and I have really formulated a great positive relationship. We communicate really quite often, and I'm sure that I will have that same relationship with the Board of Selectmen in the district. So just wanted to introduce myself and tell you how happy I am to be here.
Thank you, and welcome to Hebron. And like you say, communication, I think it is so important that we have communication between the different, entities, the town manager, the superintendents of the schools. These are the players that bring to us as board members lots of information, facts, things that we need to know or make decisions on. So I'm glad to hear that there is this communication avenue. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. As am
Does
I.
anybody have anything they want to ask of Mr. Collin or Mr. McNamara? No. Great. You're getting off easy tonight.
Well, that's good. My wife will be happy, Danny, because I'm on dinner duty, so I probably will sign off from the meeting. And again, I'm sure I'll see all of you at some time again soon.
What are we having?
Little chicken marsala.
Well, we could be there probably about a half hour or so.
You know where I live, Dan.
I take care. Thank you very, very much.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Our next one, this is probably our big one for the night, is the appointments. As it was said, we have, I'm trying to get myself together here because I'm a little bit uncoordinated.
I can jump in for you, Dan.
What's that?
I can jump in here if you want.
Sure, if you would, please.
And under item number 6, appointments and resignations, it's the Hebron Board of Education appointments, which we have 2. So Hebron Board of Education appointments attached is correspondence from 5 individuals who have expressed interest in being appointed to the Hebron Board of Education. So you guys are going to have a tough job.
Yes,
first,
we
we
are.
have Christopher Aker, who's an R, Sarah Capolino, who's an R, Kimberly Hills, who's an R, Keith Pettit, who's an R, and I think it's Elena Quinto, who's an R. There are currently 2 vacancies. One term will last until November 21st, 2023, and the other term will run until November 18th, 2025. So it's listed on the agenda. The first one would fill the vacancy for the November 21st, 2023 spot. And then the second person that you would appoint, if appointed, would fill the November 18th, 2025. I'm not sure if that makes a difference or not. But.
Well, and okay, I know that Tiffany and I had chatted with her quickly. What was Keith's original date? What was his term? Does anybody remember?
Hopefully Keith will remember.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Andy, my original term that I had to vacate because of a conflict would have ended on November 21st, 2023. And so, if the board does deem me acceptable, I would be honored to be able to fill out the remainder of the term now that my personal conflict of interest has been resolved.
Yeah, go ahead, Tiffany, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think first off, I want to thank everybody for putting their names in, because this is an incredibly important board at what I think is an inflection point for public education and for education in general. I think, and if the other selectmen agree, I mean, I'd be happy to make that motion to appoint Keith Pettit to his original term. He ran for this seat. He won it. I believe he won it with the most votes of anyone on the ticket that year. We all know that our professional obligations do come before unpaid volunteer service. And if he wants the seat again, he could run for it again after he served out the remainder of his term. I think it would only be appropriate to give someone the seat back that they worked hard and campaigned so hard to run. I'm not sure how the rest of the selectmen feel, but I would be comfortable with that.
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Since Keith's the only one who ran, I would suggest that we go with the longer term for him, since the others haven't run, so they can finish out the shorter term and then run again themselves. I'd feel more comfortable putting him in the slot for the longer term myself. That's how I feel.
Peter?
Okay, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree and would support Keith's return to the board. The longer term, I mean, Keith has suggested he finishes his term. And I think Mark makes a good point. Would we want to support a longer term because of his experience? But I would support having Keith based on sort of what Tiffany's outlined. I think it makes sense. So I would definitely support Keith's return to the board, whether it's the shorter or the longer term. I think Mark makes a good point, and obviously Keith suggested he finish his term, so I would support him in either spot, the shorter or the longer term. So thank you.
Okay. Tiffany?
Yeah, it's a good point, Mark. I think you make a good point about the longer term, but I'm kind of in the same boat as Peter, right? I would approve of either or at this point. I think since it sounds like we're all in agreement that Keith should earn his term back or such, I think we need to figure out what's best for him and his family, the 1 year or the 3 year term, I guess is what I would suggest if we're at a stalemate, unless we can all come to an agreement on which term we want Keith to fill.
Dan, why don't we just ask Keith, would you like the longer term or the shorter term?
Thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate all of the kind words. Obviously, I think that, and the Board of Selectmen has in the past supported what they consider to be the will of the voters. And so with that, I had never expected to have anything more than possibly a return to my original term. I am firmly behind and honored to be able to give back to the Hebron community. If you would like me to serve in the longer term, I understand where you're coming from, because sometimes people volunteering for the first time may not necessarily know what they're getting into, and a 3-year stint is a very long stint. But there are also other people that are up who have had previous experience as well. So I obviously, whether it's the 2023 or the 2025 term, I would again consider running for positions to serve the Hebron community. So in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, I appreciate any opportunity to serve the community. I hate to kind of put it back on the Board of Selectmen, but I would be honored for either term.
All right, so let me put it this way. you are available to serve the longer term. You have the desire and commitment to do it.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Good enough for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so if I could just make some advice or a comment.
Please.
I'm not sure, you got to set up some sort of protocol on how you want to do this. Did you want to hear from all the candidates and their attributes of why they want to serve the town before you make a decision, or you guys
Well,
are just gonna go from
On
the
this,
list?
I think on this one, because he left in good standing because of work, to me, I think the feeling is that because now work has changed, he was elected to the position, that he should be reinstated to that position. The other members, I definitely think that they need to make some statements why they want to run, what they hope to see or accomplish during their term. So I kind of think that that's where everybody's kind of coming from, if that
Okay.
makes any sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the other people got a chance to speak.
Oh, yeah, no, everybody, yes. I mean, sadly, I mean, this is the first exposure to some of these people that some of our board members have had. So I'll leave it up to my compatriots to decide if they want to do for having him finish out his term to 2023 or to go until 2025.
I would suggest 2025, and then the other four candidates can vie for the other position. That's my feeling and suggestion.
Make the motion.
Yeah, make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that Keith Pettit be appointed to serve the 2025 Hebron Board of Ed member position. And I guess, any discussion on that?
Need a second.
Hearing none, I guess. All in favor signify by saying aye. Tiffany,
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
and myself, aye. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support and your faith in my abilities, and I hope to continue to serve our community in an upstanding fashion until 2025 at least. Thank you so much.
Okay, just remember, we know where you live. Okay. With that, we have one position left, and we have four incredibly great candidates. I think that we all want to know a little bit about you, why you want to run, and what you would hope to accomplish during your tenure as a Board of Ed member. So going from the top, I guess and then what I'm hoping afterwards is if anybody has another specific question, we can throw that out. As talking with Peter earlier, I know we don't want this to go all night, but I think everybody should have a chance to at least get a question in. So, Sarah, please.
He's okay.
You're okay.
I don't mind going first, but I think there was someone ahead of me just
Oh,
alphabetically.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
Am I missing someone?
It would be Chris Aker. I think he's not
Oh.
sharing his camera, but Chris Aker is here.
Oh, okay. I don't, okay. Well, you're the first one I see. I'm sorry, Sarah.
That's all right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for entertaining me for this vacancy on the Board of Education. I am an 11-year resident of Hebron. I moved here when I was pregnant with my daughter, my oldest child. My kids are in 5th and 2nd grade, both at Hebronell and at Gilead. And we were looking to move east of the river, and we looked at a number of different towns out this way, and we landed on Hebron because of just the beautiful countryside, which is really what we were looking for, but also for an excellent school system. And so Hebron really fit the bill with that. I am an educator. I teach at RAM. And so I feel like what I can bring to the board is the perspective of an educator. I've been teaching for 16 years now in a variety of different schools. I've been at RAM for 10 years. Before that, I was at one of the Hartford magnet schools, and before that, I was in a private school. So I think I have a wealth of education experience to bring to the board. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that there is an educator on the board right now. So just a different perspective to hear from when we're debating some issues. I also think that I'm open-minded and open to hearing a lot of different perspectives and listening to people and seeing, as well as seeing the big picture. Kind of like Amanda said, I think in part because I work at RAM, I'm pretty sensitive to the budgetary issues as far as like balancing the Hebron schools with the town budget and the RAM budget. So I think that that is something that I'm personally interested in as far as why I might be interested in being on the Board of Ed, in addition to the fact that I've got skin in the game with my kids in the system, as well as just to protect, reasons why people want to come to our town and maintain our desirability and the, our property values and our prosperity in the town. So, and I just feel like right now was the right time for me to be open to filling one of these vacancies. My kids are a little bit older, so I feel like they're at a point where I can start giving back to the community. I've attended board meetings, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, both of the Board of Eds in town for a variety of different reasons over the years. And I really admire the service that everyone dedicates to keeping our town up and running. And I think it's really important that we keep the town prosperous and our schools functioning efficiently. So that's just a little bit about who I am and what I'm interested in.
Thank you. Kim? You're on mute. Yep, there you go.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. So I'm Kim Hills. I grew up in Hebron, kind of on the north side of town, back when Gilead and Hebron Elementary School were two separate K through 6 schools. So I experienced what it looked like when those schools were reorganized to be K through 2 and 3 through 6. Interestingly, I also teach at RAM with Sarah, and I'm starting my 18th year there. I teach physical education and health. I've had the opportunity to revise and write several different curriculums for our department, so I would be excited to be on the curriculum committee and check out what it looks like at Hebron Elementary School and Gilead. I've also organized several wellness events as extracurriculars for juniors and seniors at RAM, looking at all aspects of their wellness, from intellectual to social and emotional and spiritual. I've coached both at the youth level and at the high school level, and believe in the power of athletics and extracurricular activities for students for protective factors. I have 3 kiddos, a 4th grader, a 1st grader, and a preschooler. And when I got my master's degree, I got it in adventure education, a little bit similar to outdoor education. And I love how the preschool program, at least with Christopher Lapsus, has wilderness in the woods on Wednesdays. And I know there might be other staff and teachers interested in some more outdoor education options, and that there's an older trail at Hebron that could potentially be an option for revival. So that's something that I'm passionate about. I think we are just in critical times for education, and I think this is the right time in my life to be able to give service to the town. I'd like to revive family values in education and clear, transparent communication between families and community members and the Board of Education and staff members as well. So I think it's a unique perspective to teach and work in the town that you also live and contribute to taxes and look at the budget more like a home budget of fiscal responsibility and not overspending or trivial spending. I am a member of the RTC, so I was looking forward to the meeting that unfortunately got canceled on Monday, and was looking forward to the support of the RTC. And any questions that any board members have, I would love to hear, but I think we're going to hear from everybody. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next I see would be Chris.
Hi, thank you. My name is Chris Aker. I'm 18, going on 18 years resident of Hebron with my family. I also, I served on the Board of Education from November 2017 to December 2021. And it's great that there's a lot of good candidates, and I think that that's wonderful for the board and for the town of Hebron. And my own motivations stem from having a daughter that's still in school, but also a deep commitment to public service. As a part of the board, when I was involved, and it's important to remember, the board is a function of the interrelated parts of the board. It's not an individual capacity that any board member really facilitates or potentiates their decision making. It's all through board interplay. And I think in that regard, I was very successful in getting some things advanced and that were directly beneficial to the kids of under the jurisdiction of Hebron Elementary. And that first was the SRO, the school resource officer position, which in concert with the town, the Board of Education facilitated. And the town's been wonderful with that. And that's worked out to be a phenomenal addition to the safety and orderliness of the Hebron Elementary School students. And I mean that all encompassing across two schools. And the other thing that I think I was a strong and positive advocate for was the reintegration of students into the school in person in the fall of 2020 during the pandemic. And that was a very controversial issue for a lot of obvious reasons, which I won't go into because everybody knows them. But I was part of a board, which I served my full term on, that implemented the in-person education of the Hebron Elementary School students. And I think that that's a very important thing. And it comes in terms of being attentive to the pandemic, but also now I think it's important to realize that there are a lot of other issues that need to be addressed because of the pandemic and because of the deficits in learning that have unfortunately manifested. So for all those reasons, I would put forth my candidacy for the seat. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elena?
Hi, it's Alana Quinto. Um, I'm a mom of two kids. They both go to Hebron right now. We moved here about 7 years ago before my daughter started school. And we moved here, number one, for the reason was that Hebron had a great public education system. So I think that in order for that kind of to continue, that we need to have a great relationship between the Board of Ed, the school district and administration, and the Board of Selectmen to keep our community strong and to have a very strong education system. I think that our system needs to support parental choice, which I've been a huge advocate for and have spoke at various Board of Education meetings in the past. We need to be fiscally conservative, and we also need to put teaching our children core fundamental values as priority. I've been very involved with PTA for the past 12 years. And I have a proven history of collaboration and working successfully with the school leadership with the PTA. I was also a member of the reentry committee led by Dr. Baird. And I worked, with the school staff, other families in town, and the administration to kind of find the best plan to reopen our schools during the COVID pandemic. I've also been very vocal at Board of Education meetings for parental choice, which I think is still a very important topic with some big changes coming about. I think that that's needed. I just think that my relationships with families in town and all of the community events that I attend and volunteer work that I do within the schools, in the classrooms with the teachers, with the school administration, I just think that that would bring a lot to the Board of Education, and I kind of would love to move forward and continue to do so in this capacity. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. As I say, 4 incredibly great people. Tiffany, did you have a question that you wanted to ask to the?
Yeah, I do, unless you wanted to go first, Mr. Chairman. Did you have any additional questions? Are you sure? Okay. I have one question. And I'm glad that some of the candidates actually spoke about this in terms of wellness and health, and that's what my question will revolve around. So although the worst part of COVID may have left, I think it's important to point out it's still here and still killing hundreds of people a day. And we're also in the midst of a massive flu epidemic right now. I know a lot of people who are suffering with the flu. So I think it's important, and I, as a board member, am always thinking about how we as a community can be prepared for the next pandemic. So understanding that children do learn best attending in-person classes, I'd like to hear from all of you on your approach to public health guidelines and their application in schools. And how would you support measures to ensure that all students, teachers, and staff are able to learn and work safely and equitably? Should I call on someone, Mr. Chair, or would you like to?
I was going to say, we just need to keep going right around the block. So, Sarah?
Yeah, I guess that means me.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, keep the same pattern. I agree 100% that the in-person learning is definitely preferable. And, I think every effort should be made to keep us in person, but should another event, whether it's COVID or something else happen, I think we, need to take precautions to protect our whole community, is my feeling on it. I think it's, even for me, I think it's easy to kind of forget what it was like in those early days of COVID when we didn't have a lot of information. And so I think any precautions that we could take were important steps, especially when the hospitals were full. I mean, even COVID aside, I was a little bit nervous. What if something else happens? And we have to go there during that time. So I think in you know, we're a small community, but we're a community, and that means taking care of each other. And I think for me, it's about following the science. And if there are small measures that we can take that might protect a small or large portion of our community, then I think we should take those measures. So I'm not sure if that was like completely answering your question, but.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Kim?
I think that what we're saying about students learning in person is the absolute hands down way that all ages, K through 12, need to be interacting with their peers and their teachers and their content and their skills and their curriculum. So in person, 100% is what we believe. I think that if we can take public health recommendations and interpret them as a community for what's going to work for us, if we have the flexibility to do so, considering all populations in the community, then we need to do that. So being able to communicate in our small town so that we can make a choice that's best for us, but not necessarily have state government telling us what we have to do, but us deciding as boards of education, boards of selectmen, what we do and interpreting those recommendations of public health officials to work best for us, what we need.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Well, I think that, you know, in terms of what we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic, the Hebron Board of Education and Dr. Baird, who showed, you know, substantial moral courage, but the Hebron Board of Education came together and made a decision to do in-person schooling, and it was successful, and it was it was the right thing to do, I think, considered against the backdrop of both the science and also different states in the country. Having said that, it's always about the facts and circumstances of what, you know, a particular malady that presents itself presents. And we have had now this pandemic, this once in 100-year pandemic. But ultimately speaking, I think the board has to do what it has done in the past in these sorts of situations, is to rely on expert medical and scientific information and to come together in a reasoned way to make good decisions. And so I think that all efforts should be made, as Ms. Hill just said. I think she's right on, to preserve the in-person schooling. And that has to be folded into a framework that is developed through consultation with public health officials. And you can do that, and we have done that.
Thank you. Helena?
All right. I just think that when the Board of Ed receives guidance from Chatham Health, that we need to take that guidance and use it appropriately. But we also have to do everything in the Board of Ed's power to keep the children in school so that we do not further impact their learning, as was evident in 2020.
Okay, thank you. Coming down, Mark?
All good answers to Tiffany's question. In order not to prolong this, I'll not ask a question. But if anyone else, feel free. I know something about all the candidates, so I'm at a little advantage in some way. So I'll pass on asking the question in the interest of not staying here all night and having everybody have to be here.
Okay. Okay, Peter?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have a question, and it basically, again, budget related, and school related. What would you consider any kind of studies that would potentially utilize or blend the potential of consolidating with either other towns or whatever, with RAM, whatever, our school system?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, could I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
This is Peter. You see, are you talking about from an administrative perspective? When you say
Administrative
combine?
only, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I thought I might have been hearing a big.
Administrative only.
Okay,
No.
no, double checking. Thank you.
Ways of trying to consolidate and or, for budget savings purposes and or potentially even a more unified learning environment so that when these students do go to the high school or the junior high, they're more on the same page. Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think a study could be appropriate, but I also think that we have a great model in RAM already, kind of showing how regionalization can work. So I think we could build off of that as a starting point if that was something that the board was going to look at. I certainly think that from the standpoint of our incoming students, and I teach mostly 11th grade, so they've been in the RAM system sort of homogenizing themselves a little bit by the time I see most students in the classroom. But I used to teach 10th grade, and that was at the beginning of my 10-year stint at RAM. And every now and then there were funny things that I would see coming out of one of the towns versus another. And so I think in that sense, it could be beneficial to all students to have that be unified. So beneficial to students and certainly beneficial to the budget. I mean, we pay for a lot of administrators across all three towns. If that's the path that you were thinking about regionalizing with all three towns, I think that I didn't know that was something that was maybe being considered, but if it is, I could off the cuff see a few potential benefits, and also, building off the RAM model and the support for that community, then I think we have a good start on what it might look like.
Thank you. Kim? Yeah.
Sorry, slow on the unmute. I think if it's something that the community values and they tell us as board members that they want to look into it, then we owe it to them to at least research it in a financially responsible way. Sometimes the research can be expensive itself, but when you're looking at solving monetary challenges, then you need to strategize around different ways to do that. I know there's already, I'm getting a little feedback, sorry. There's already, including RAM's model, like Sarah mentioned, some of the youth sports are playing regionally together. And so I think that's helping them socially get to know each other before we put them together at RAM Middle School, and then feeling confidence and prepared and emotionally in entering that melting pot when they get to RAM as well. So I think we do have several different examples to show that it could be beneficial for students in learning, and then monetarily as well.
Thank you. Chris?
Well, from my perspective, first and foremost, you have to take a look at, when you talk about a study, you have to take a look at whether such a consolidation would compromise the quality of the education that the Hebron elementary students are beneficiaries of. And right now it's extremely high. That has to do with a lot of sophisticated oversight from the administration as it's constructed. And so I would be, I mean, honestly, I would be a little bit concerned about it from that perspective, from the perspective that consolidation could very well mean a compromise in the quality of education. Having said that, there's a couple of other things that are important to consider. Number one, always fiscal prudence is the guidepost to all of what we do in educational oversight. And so it always needs to be looked at, but you're also talking about 3 different towns. So you're talking about cobbling together towns that have very different needs, that have very different population makeups, Andover obviously being the most rural of our 3 towns, very different sort of distributions of students from my recollection anyway, of what I was aware of before I left the board. But all that being said, it's important to consider. It's a very hot button topic. And I guess the part that I would emphasize is that we would only have control over what we have control over, and that is Hebron, not Andover and not Marlborough. So I don't want this to be, I wouldn't want it, I would never want it to be something that was just notional. Government is filled with notional agendas, to check off a box or so. And I'm not saying that that's what this is, but I'm just saying I wouldn't want it to be notional. I would want it to be something that was meaningful if it could ever be accomplished. And that would have to do a lot with what our partners in the 3-town area, what their positions were too. Thank you.
Thank you. Elena?
I would be open to exploring this idea. I believe that there would be a tremendous opportunity to consolidate the elementary schools under one region. On the surface, I think it'd be a significant monetary savings for the taxpayers, and it would align all the elementary school under the same curriculum. So when they feed into RAM, they'd kind of be at the same level. Right now, the quality of education in Hebron is great. So I would just want to make sure that it stays at the same level under the new regional plan.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, for incredibly great people, and one incredibly hard decision. Trying to rationalize what our best step forward would be.
How about, Dan, that the selectmen who wish to make some comments, make some comments?
Sure.
I don't mind going first.
Okay.
Alana, great answer about the regionalization. Mr. Akers, great answer about COVID and being in school and trying to weigh the needs of both safety and education of the kids. I also would like to say that it's very important for me on any board to have educated and professional people. And by educated people, I mean those who are knowledgeable about the boards they're joining. So if you're on a board of finance, you should have some kind of financial background, whether you be an accountant or somebody involved in finance. So in terms of an educational board, I feel strongly that there should be educators on that board. And as far as I know, on the Board of Education in Hebron, there are no educators right now. So for me, that brings in Sarah and Kim. Difficult choice for me. I know both of them. Kim Hills is a fantastic teacher. As a SRO, I almost saw her every day. I know how good she is, how she interacts with the students, how much they respect her. I got to lift weights with the kids while I was the policeman there a couple times a week, and we'd be there together. Sarah Coppolino is a phenomenal teacher also. My stepson's favorite teacher. She wrote a glowing recommendation letter for him, and he got into WPI, so maybe that has something to do with that. You're both outstanding. For me to make a choice between you is difficult, so I'm going to defer to the chairman of the Republican Party and go with her recommendation of Sarah. Sorry I had to do that, Kim. I don't know how to balance between the two of you, so that's where I stand.
Okay, Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right, in some respects, it's difficult because we have to say no to three really fine people. And in some respects, I guess, Mr. Chairman, it's easy in terms of the outcome. We're faced with a very good outcome regardless. And so I like the rest of the folks, thank you guys for stepping up and your willingness to serve. And those that, the three that aren't selected now, please don't feel that's any indictment on our potential support in the future, because clearly you're all very capable. And Chris, obviously, thank you for your past service. I know of the time you did spend on the Board of Education. I appreciate that very much. And Alana for stepping up and extending yourself in this regard. I think it's terrific. We need people like you in the community in any role, so your voice is heard. And so I appreciate that. In terms of Kim and Sarah, and I know the board probably is tired of me saying the number of children I have, but I'm in my fifth child now, my last child, going through the RAM system, and two are out of college and two are in now. And I never want to miss an opportunity to thank any of the educators at RAM. As I see my kids get out, I realize how prepared they were and what a great education that they had working their way through, obviously, the elementary level, but opportunity to thank two RAM educators for the impact that you're having on our children. And a lot of times those kids don't necessarily remember to come back and thank you, so I will do that for them. So thank you for all of your efforts and the good work that you put forward on that. I do appreciate Mark's comments on having an educator on the board and not having one. I think we do lose a perspective on that. And so I just, off the top of my head, which is difficult, but I lean towards supporting Mark's recommendation for the reasons that he articulated, but also that I do lean towards having an educator on the board from that perspective. And so, again, thank you for those for stepping up and putting yourself out there. It does mean a lot, and I appreciate it very much. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Tiffany?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I echo the comments of my colleagues, Mark and Peter. Thank you for coming forward to serve. Certainly don't let this be the end of getting engaged and involved with your community. I would support the appointment of Sarah Coppolino. I greatly appreciate the points that have been made. I think it is essential to have an educator on the board. And I think that, her open-mindedness and willingness, that she spoke of, I think would be a good match for the board as it stands currently. So I'm happy to make that motion unless, Mr. Chairman, you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't know. I've known Kim for many years. She's a homegrown girl, comes from Hebron. Been here her whole life. I would be throwing my support behind Kim. But it's one of those things at this point. Is it 3 against 1? And if that's the case, that would be, I think that from what I see is where I see it going, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would just recommend that we allow Tiffany to make the motion, and then And then obviously you can maybe go last.
Okay.
At
Right.
least it'll answer the question.
Okay. Tiffany, go ahead, please.
I move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen appoint Sarah Coppolino to the Hebron Board of Education for the term to run until November 21st, 2023.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. And again, Tiffany,
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
and myself, Dan Larson, no. So the motion does carry. Congratulations, Sarah. I know she's there somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, and again, thank all of you for showing this interest. I think it's fantastic. And please do not go away. Stay involved, please. So many times we beg for people to run for different boards and commissions. This is such an abnormality to have literally such great people trying to step forward for this position. So thank you. And I will say, as with any board nowadays, it's mind-boggling how hard it is sometimes to make, decisions that and that's what we do. We have to make decisions and we have to live with those decisions. So it's not easy. So thank you. Thank you.
Hey, just
Okay.
one last comment.
Yes, please.
It's unusual that we get people, all of you could do this job and would be great at this job. I'm a somewhat blunt person and don't obfuscate. There's been times we've had to appoint people that we had no choice, but this is the greatest and best candidates we've had to appoint to any membership anywhere on any board. And I'm sorry if you guys who didn't get in there. I hope that, like everyone else said, that you stick with it and find your way to some board. Please do.
Okay. Thank you. Our next would be,
Next, Mr. Chairman, we're moving right to item 7, Town Manager's Report.
okay.
You ready?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we've been busy preparing the audit. We're trying to get the audit on time. The finance director has assured me that the town is in pretty good shape for what we need to have done for the audit. So hopefully we won't need an extension. That would be great news. I met today or this week with Senator Murphy's budsman and spelled out the need for water in Hebron and trying to get the economic people in his office to try to get us some federal money to help us with that. So we continue to keep pressing to try to get any and all grants to try to assist us in that area. We also met with CCM at that time of year where they come around to see what they can do for the membership towns. Once again, they know about our water situation, and we're trying to improve that. So we figure if we keep putting irons in the fire, hopefully one of them gets hot and returns some dividends. Okay. We're still working on the small cities grant for the elderly housing down there. We're trying to get the scope of work down to fit the budget that we have. We've had to make some changes. Materials and costs have gone up. There was a delay, so we're negotiating that with the contractor. So that's taken a little bit of time, but we continue to make progress and move forward on that. Most of the CIP budgets are in, or the CIP requests from the department heads. They're under review, and we'll be compiling that data, and then we'll be bringing a list to the Board of Selectmen to review and then approve. As everybody knows, I was busy working with RAM and AHM on the school issue the last week or so. We started installing the new EV charging stations. It started up at the Parks and Rec. They started that today for the charging of the electric cars. We're hoping to have the ones at Town Hall replaced and also the ones at the Senior Center. So we're moving forward with more of them and then some new locations as we go forward. And then, of course, you've got some correspondence that were sent in by Mr. Tolomari. Those are in the packet. He wanted those for the record, so those also should be in the minutes. So make sure they got mentioned. And that's all that I have right now.
Could I ask a question on the charging stations?
Yes.
Are those going to be where the user pays?
Yeah, I believe there's definitely a way we're gonna get compensated. I'm not sure if it's, Donna can help me out more with that. We got the ones with the commercial, but there'll be you'll have to pay a charge.
Okay. So with the cost of electricity, I just can't see putting that on the back of the taxpayers.
No, Donna, you have that information, and I don't have that with me.
I
Okay.
don't have the specifics in front of me, but with these new charging stations we're installing, we will be, the people will be paying for their charge. It won't be free anymore. So the ones at Town Hall and the ones up at the park, it'll be, I don't know if it's a swipe card or what the actual device is, but they will be paying.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Next would be our old business?
Old business, 8B. So this, Mr. Chairman, would be the Public Works Building Project next steps. This, as the selectmen continue discussions on next steps for the Public Works Building Project and consider methods to provide information and revise feedback from the community. So we were hoping tonight to have the information from the engineers and BL companies, the architects. But with the short week, they're just a couple days short. I did talk to them today. I didn't get the proposals in writing. So we'll have to carry this on to the next agenda, but there's a couple of things that we've been talking about with the building committee and then the town engineer. So we're still waiting on the price, should have that for next week, so I'll put that on the next agenda. There's been talk about doing a town-wide survey or putting a survey together. Came up with one of the selectmen and some of the building members to get it out to the town with different options on what they feel they would support. One of the things, one of the options that are being discussed now would be possibly closing the transfer station and having curbside pickup. And then just doing a bulky waste on the weekends. I'm not sure that's very popular, but there's also a question could be of moving the transfer station. There's a lot of hurdles in doing that. I didn't do a deep dive on this consideration of all the alternative sites specifically, but for a few points that are important to consider about relocation of a transfer station. Is moving the transfer station would create significant potential permitting issues at a different site. It seems like traffic could also be a significant issue, even if it were on a state road. They would essentially require design, permitting, and development of 2 complete new facilities, one for the public works and one for the transfer station. So presumably the cost could go from 15 to 20 million to 30 to 40 million. We have already vetted all possibilities of locating both facilities at 550 Old Colchester Road, and that is not feasible. The analysts considered using substantial adjacent land. Unfortunately, no areas considered wetlands can be built on regardless of their functional value. This is just not realistic. So that would be, there's been some talk about trying to move the transfer station over to the Eversource property. We vetted that pretty well. And we had that looked at and the wetlands did appear even though it was man-made. So that was ruled out. And there's just not enough room to sustain both operations down there for what's needed. So that's just on that. But the overall thing is, I think, this is a huge situation, and I think the whole town needs to get involved. This is a big step for everybody. And I think the Board of Selectmen needs to listen to the people, and that's what's being suggested. And I think the best way to do that is get the information out to all the people. Tell them where they can get it, send out a cover letter, have cue cards at the transfer station. You come down, take a swipe with your phone on a cue card. The survey could pop up on your phone as long as it was put together, unbiasedly with the options of, different alternatives that would come up from a committee, not anything from myself or the building committee, something that would be vetted. It's just, there's a lot of things that are being talked about, but there's a lot of things that people don't understand aren't in consideration. So when we're proposing a new facility, we're trying to enhance how we do things now. Right now, we store salt in 2 different locations, and I'm sure we could, do a little bit better at what we're doing. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to build a new facility to the state of the art with a salt shed with membranes and have it discharge into the sanitary sewer, like the brand new one over in East Hampton, Connecticut. Things like that would enhance what we're doing now. There's a lot of people that reach out to, probably yourself, the Board of Selectmen, and myself, that don't write letters or come to these meetings, especially the people, not to name them specifically, but in the North End area, they want that salt box, that second site. That would go away if we were to construct something more centralized. And that's something that we were trying to do to better, be better housekeepers on how we use this salt. We agree it should be stored properly. So those are some of the things that other people have, concerns about, that don't really come out and voice that a lot. So I think if we get more people involved with the information that's out there and have questions that give a clear, advantage or an avenue of next steps or plan Bs. We keep hearing about plan Bs. There could be some plan Bs, but as I stated, if you're talking about moving a transfer station, who's going to raise their hand and want that in their residential neighborhood? That'd be a tough sell. But not only that, there'd be a lot of cost and permitting to go through with the state. Not saying it can't be done. It's just another expense that would be put on top of moving or building a new facility. Then the other thing is I think we need to get a PR person to, just work and get the facts out on the projects. Because every meeting we have questions come up, and different, consultants that are pointed to, whether they're retired or professors, which I'm sure they're all very knowledgeable in what they do. But, we're in contact with the people that are gainfully employed with DEEP and public health. We've got letters from everybody saying what we're doing, if it's done right. It's a permitted use, and if you have good housekeeping practices, you shouldn't have problems. But there's other people that, worked in the industry for a long time that have us, we don't even have the thing designed yet, and we're already, getting accused of doing something wrong. So it's kind of a tough sell, and we may need some help in just trying to get the facts out and get people to form their own opinion with the information that we have. So that's just a few things. I hope it's not upsetting. I know a lot more people wanted a little bit more firm numbers on how to proceed or what it was going to cost to do the final design. I do know, and don't quote me, and I kind of mentioned this once before. So to get Nathan L. Jacobson, the engineer, is the town's consulting engineer, and B&L Company is the ones that designed the buildings for us early on for conceptual plans. To put the final design and the utilities, the road, the buildings, and to the topography, and get it ready to go to, referendum, of course, but if it ever were to pass, we'd have to have it so it could go through all these agencies. It'd have to have all the information needed to get permitted and through planning and zoning, so on. And that's gonna be, you're looking at a price tag of about $200,000 just to do the final design. That would give you the actual building, the prints, and the cost to take it to referendum. So I just want to make sure the Board of Selectmen are aware of that, and I won't quote it exactly until I have it in writing. But when we do, you're gonna have to make a decision. Do you want to do a survey and get that out there and hear from the people in town before we move forward? Or decision is made to do the final design and bring it to referendum? So those are questions. If we know there's a contingency that doesn't want it and it's building steam, if we're gonna put something in referendum and we know it's gonna fail, we might get criticized for spending that kind of money. So there's a few things to think about, but we'll get more information where you can form an educated opinion. But in the meantime, we can work with the selectmen and the building committee and the town engineer and, start putting a survey together, or at least have conversations around what the questions should be for that survey. So I'll open it up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have a few comments related to this. I'm a strong proponent of having a survey and having the town weigh in and decide. It seems that the most input has come from only a few individuals, and I don't think just a few individuals should dominate in any case or any decision. A few comments that I have found troubling. If you believe it's a danger to groundwater in your neighborhood, how is it not a danger to groundwater in somebody else's neighborhood? And how do you expect us to rectify that? If the system can't contain groundwater in your neighborhood, then it can't contain groundwater in anybody's neighborhood. So you're proposing we put it somewhere else and thrust it upon them instead of you. So we're going to have to find, through knowledgeable people and those who design these things, and have some faith that it's not going to fail. And that's been the case in other places. There's historic sites everywhere. The whole town of Hebron is historic. So your place is historic, and maybe it is, and maybe my neighborhood in Hebron's historic. But at some point we have to make the decisions that can keep the town of Hebron going. So just finding reasons not to do something instead of trying to find reasons how we can work this out where it impacts everybody in some kind of favorable way. But no matter what we do, somebody's going to be impacted and not be happy about it. So our decision is difficult. The town manager's decision is difficult. He's been trying to come up with all kinds of options. We have everybody weighing in. So it seems that we're at some point of an impasse here. So I think we need to let the people talk. So we have to formulate the right questions and get a survey out there and see how we're going to proceed.
Did you get cut off? Mark?
Yeah, he's going in and out.
Okay. Peter or Tiffany?
I think it's his service.
I have a few comments, but I can defer to Tiffany if you'd like to go first.
No, I'll be frank. I mean, the longer we keep delaying a survey or a referendum, the more agitated my constituents get, because they want to have a chance to voice their concerns as well, their approval or disapproval. I've heard both among the people that I speak with. And so, I would support the idea of a survey, but I would just, caution the board at some point we need to decide to send this to referendum so everybody gets a say. And I just want to push back a little bit on this thought that, well, do we want to send it to referendum because we think it's going to fail? To me, yes, it's important to be fiscally prudent, but it's more important to hear from as many town residents as possible. And we do that through the referendum process. But I would certainly support Mark's idea to do a survey and to formulate that. I think that would be a good first step. But I think eventually we need to make a decision because the town's expecting one. Thank you.
Welcome. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And I think Andy's spot on. It seems like we're at a point in which I feel anyway, the town has lost control of the narrative. associated with this, and I apologize, I think my camera's going out. I'm trying to get it back on. And so the idea of being able to allow our constituents across the community to weigh in, to have accurate information, to have all sides heard, I think is important. I think Andy makes an excellent point about, I would be a strong proponent of looking to hire somebody to manage sort of how we're positioned with any key town issue within social media, whether it's this or any other issue. Because one of the things that I do see quite a bit, and I'm not active on social media, but just about everyone in my family is, and my friends and all that. And a lot of what I see is a combination of accurate and inaccurate information. But the one thing I do recognize clearly is that many decisions are made, and people look to social media for information that allows them to make a decision, right or wrong. It's a common platform that people see, and I think we don't have a strong connection with social media as much as we could, and I think we use some help there, whether it's this issue or any issue. So I would be a strong proponent of at least exploring what that could do to help us reach the most people possible in our community with facts, information, and an outlet to allow them to make an informed decision. As Tiffany said, support or not support whatever the issue is. Our issue is to bring it forward. It isn't necessarily to support it or not support it. It's to bring it forward. And I want to hear from as many people as possible. And right now we're not. And so that's a gap we should close. I'm sensitive to Tiffany's comment and I've said it before, I think that quote surfaced in the last River East article, that I don't think as a community we should be trying to figure this out 5 years from now. I mean, we need to move forward. So at some point we need to move forward. So I'm interested in the survey for the reasons articulated. I'm interested in getting the information out as effectively as possible. And I think talking to a social media firm would help us reach more effectively the broadest constituency possible. So I'm a supporter of both. And I think we should look to try to move in that direction as quickly as possible. Thank you.
You're welcome. My only comments is I've read letters that state that where this facility is planned on going, there was nothing substantial found, no reason not to proceed. And I've seen that from a number of different state agencies. And yet all of a sudden now we're being told that, oh no, we have to do more studies, more surveys. So I don't know what information is accurate, what information is not accurate. There also seems to be a lot of misinformation going around out there. I will say that in my travels around town, the number of the silent people that are out there that pat me on the back saying, stay with it, stay the course, we're behind you, is actually the only thing that keeps me going forward. A lot of people, they just don't want to get into the hoopla. They don't want to get into the limelight, so to speak. But there's a lot of people, there's still a lot of support out there for us moving this thing forward. Talking about, some of the older salt sheds, and even a few years ago, they did not have the membranes. They're not built like they are today. And this is what we are looking at, is to have the modern state-of-the-art stuff. But the issues there is that you need sewers. You need a way to be able to drain off any kind of condensation, any kind of moisture, which these new systems have. The same with washing bays. Right now, and in fact, anywhere that we move this facility out from the sewer district, we get into having to have holding tanks and pumps, which is what we have now. Every month, they have to pump the tanks down at the Public Works garage and physically truck that wastewater over the roads to a wastewater facility. And to me, the potential of overflow, of spill, of so many bad things just gets made much more complicated. And the fact that it is such surrounded with so many wetlands, which is also drains into what's supposedly one of the state's cleanest aquifers in the state, that worries me. So I don't think keeping it where it's at is a wise decision. So I think we need to take this information, and I actually started reading through it and verifying just what is accurate, what is inaccurate, what is someone's own ideas or own thoughts. The Tomalaris have done a tremendous amount of work, but we need to verify its accuracy. This is where you have different people, different viewpoints. And I'm not saying, anyone is right or wrong, but we have a responsibility to look at all sides of it. One of the reports I saw was dated like 2013. So, is that accurate today? I don't know. So, yeah, we definitely need to move forward. We definitely need to get this into the hands of our experts to find out just what is accurate or what is inaccurate. And we also need to get some clarification from the state what way their direction they're going. We have a letter saying this and he has a letter saying that. So, somebody has to get on the same page here. So,
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
go ahead,
Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Peter, Casper, I'm sorry, my camera I don't think is working on my phone. I apologize. So this makes sure are you in, oh, there we go. Now it's going to turn on. Are you in favor of a survey if we can do it in a timely manner?
Yes.
Okay. And so.
I'm also saying we need to make sure that we get out factual information.
Okay, absolutely. Now, so if I may ask Andy a question. So Andy, would we, in a structure of a survey, would you anticipate and or support an attached FAQ document, something that we could help to sort of, at least provide as best we can comfortably come up with as unbiased information and sort of those questions to help people better understand what they're voting, what they're commenting on. Is that something that's possible to have an FAQ piece to the survey to at least, again, my goal is to provide as much information as possible. We don't have to make a decision as to whether or not we're putting it in this location. We have to make a decision ultimately to bring it to referendum. And so I want as much information out there as possible. Is it possible to add an FAQ section to a survey document?
The short answer is two answers. Short answer is yes. And absolutely. And I've heard some comments around the survey. We're still going to send this thing to referendum. I think what the survey will do is help you if the referendum fails with other options. If it doesn't fail, it'll guide you. If it's promoted well and we get it throughout town, like I said, the transfer station is a busy place, but I think it has to be accompanied with the factual information from, the entities that oversee these sites, that are employed, that are bureau chiefs, the Department of Health, DEEP, the environmentalists, the wetlands, SHPO. We've been consulting all of them, and we've had letters from them regarding this project. We can show what we're proposing for a design. Like I said, there's a brand new one in East Hampton. It has a rubber membrane on the floor. It's enclosed. It also has drains. The drains go to an oil water separator. The oil water separator then goes out to a plunge pool, which is also lined with a big rubber liner, and the water is discharged from there into the sanitary sewer, not into the groundwater. So with the new regulations and how these things are being built, they're a lot different than something that was built 5, 10, or 15 years ago. And I can't stress it enough. I mean, we want to do a good job. We don't want to contaminate anybody's well, but at the same time, we have a job to do. So I think that sheet has to show the need, how long we've been doing this. We've heard conversations earlier about why can't you put it up at Burnt Hill? That was the original plan, but when we finally went and looked at it with all the shifting of the fields and the design of that, it pushed that acreage down to a minimum, and the operational strategic planning of what we needed for big trucks of plows to pull in and out of buildings and salt sheds and stuff, it didn't fit, and it put us into the wetlands. So, at one point, we don't want to do anything wrong over on Keeney Road, but we don't want to jam something to Burt Hill where we're doing, the exact same thing we're going to be accused of. We want to do it right. And the need's not going to go away. So, that property is zoned for it. There's a lot of safety measures that are out there today that would prevent a lot of this. The concern is never going to away. There's always a concern. I feel for that. That's valid. But at the same time, they're building these things, every day. Columbia's looking to put one up. They're putting 3 up in 3 other towns that I know of right now. It's the same contractor that built one in Marlboro's doing 2 more. So there's 3 right there. But we got to get the information out to the people of Hebron, because what I'm trying to say is this is going to affect everybody. It's going to affect the budget. It's going to affect, the center of town, or if we try to locate this somewhere else after all this, legwork that the architects, the town plan, and the building committee did. We got to come up with a plan B. This will guide you. I think it'll give you at least a sense of what the people are thinking. I don't think people want the transfer station to go away. I think it'll be very hard to move it, but that's just me. Let's let the people weigh in, because that's who it's going to affect. So I don't think anybody would be against the survey, as long as the questions were written, the right way, not to promote or to try to denounce anybody's concerns, just generic. This is what we need. This is why we need it. This is what the property we bought for it. This is some of the issues that are being brought up. I think we just have to move it forward, and it'll give you the information. It definitely has to go to referendum, but we'll know what it's going to cost, and put that to the voters. The way we were going to pay for this is we have debt coming off the parks, we have debt coming off fire department number 2, and we have more debt coming off of our RAM levy. So this is the time to backfill some of that debt so the taxpayers don't really feel it. And it's not a lot of times or years go by where we have that much debt coming off at once. So this project has been on the scope for 12 years. We've diligently, thought we've been methodical in looking for it. We didn't try to, ruin anybody's neighborhood, and yet here we are today. So I think we have to move forward, but I think the whole town has to get educated on it, and they got to weigh in to give us some direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize, because could we add to the agenda a cell tower on West Branch Drive? Maybe. So just when you said the short answer is I cut out, so I apologize, Andy. So I only caught the end of it. I'm not going to ask you to repeat it, but I just wanted to apologize if you had asked a follow-up question or anything. I did have to log back in. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
do we need, just from a procedural standpoint, do we need a motion to allow Andy to put together a survey, or someone to put together a survey, or will that be done for, does the board need to look at the questions? I'm just asking from a procedural standpoint, what needs to be done next?
The easy answer is, if we do it in the form of a motion, that, we request the town to put together a survey for the topics as discussed. That takes care of it right there, I would think. So not quite sure how it would be properly worded, but something to the effect that, we request the town of Hebron, the town manager's office, to put together a survey to get input from the people of Hebron on their thoughts of, the transfer station and public works facility, potential changes or alterations or relocations. Does that cover it, Andy?
What I was going to say, because this is going to be a sensitive topic too, even the survey, I would say let us start to formulate something in draft form, and we wouldn't do anything until we brought it back and had it vetted through a few different meetings and entities to make sure everybody had a chance to weigh in on it, or add or delete or change any type of draft questions. I think it's going to be a work in progress before it's finalized.
Okay, well, do you need anything outside of our discussion here to formally start that process. I think that's what Tiffany is getting at.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think just after the discussion tonight, we'll start looking at what it's gonna take to put one together, and we'll bring it back. We'll talk to the building committee, and we've done some surveys before. We'll get some input on what's the best way to do that and the best way to get it out to the people, and we'll bring it back to the selectmen as draft form until you guys approve something.
Okay. I'm
Mr.
satisfied with
Chairman,
that. Yeah. What's that?
I'm sorry, just that second piece when Andy had originally talked about the potential for a survey and was the idea of, and again, I apologize, I cut out for a couple minutes, but there was also the concept associated with getting some help with PR, social media, making sure, again, we're trying to figure out every way possible to get all the information out to as many people as possible accurately and in the format in which they wish to receive it. Is that something that is a separate item? I don't want to lose sight of that. And if it was covered, again, while I dropped off, I apologize, but I don't want that to be lost. And I don't know if Andy can come back with some potential companies to recommend or pricing or something for us as a board to consider. I'd like to keep that on the agenda if I could. That was sort of part B of Andy, when I think of the two together, is information gathering and communication enhancement.
Okay. And that again sounds fine with me. Andy, do you need anything?
Yeah, can we keep that on the agenda, or can you come back with information on that, Andy?
Yeah, so I think you stated it correctly. If the board agrees, we can use that as a part B. I have a couple consulting firms listed that we've used on other projects. I can talk to them and get some sort of, verbal proposals and come back and let the board of selectmen know what you're looking at before we even move forward.
That would be
What
great
that would look like.
from my perspective.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else? Mark, Tiffany? Okay. Any other old business? Hearing none, moving into the Douglas Library Strategic Plan presentation. Andy, did
Yes.
you want to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Item 9A, Douglas Library Strategic Plan Presentation. Calvin Sullivan, the Library Director, and members of the Douglas Library Board of Trustees and Strategic Plan Committee will be in attendance to provide a presentation on the Douglas Library of Hebron Strategic Plan for 2022 to 2027. Attached are the presentation and details of the strategic plan. This is condensed, so it's hopefully not going to take too long. He knows we had a busy night, but with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Sullivan.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate this body making time to hear from me tonight. And I appreciate Donna helping me out with the PowerPoint on her end. So I'm proud to present 5 years of wise decisions, the Douglas Library Board of Trustees strategic plan for 2022 through 2027. This plan will guide the decisions of the trustees and library staff for the next several years as the library continues to evolve to meet the needs of our patrons in the continually changing information and media landscape. So tonight, I'm just going to review some of the broad strokes of the plan. Each member of the Board of Selectmen has been furnished with a print copy of the full plan. And members of the public who are curious can find the full plan on douglaslibrary.org. If you want to look for it, just look for strategic plan in the About menu, which is at the top of the page there. Okay, so this plan is a result of over a year's worth of work by the Strategic Planning Subcommittee of the Library Board of Trustees. The committee was formed in February 2021 and is made up of individuals from the Board of Trustees, the Douglas Library Association, the Friends of the Douglas Library, public library users, library staff members, and a representative from the town manager's office. These are the members of the committee listed on the screen before you. I know that Peter Casarello is able to be here tonight, and of course, Donna Lanza is here as well. So I'd like to thank them and everybody on the committee for their hard work on this document. I can take the next slide, Donna. Thanks. The committee set out to update the plan as a way to align the library's actions with its mission, vision, and values, to set concrete goals, to focus the priorities, energy, and resources of the library, to work on getting staff and board members on the same page, to take the opportunity to evaluate the library's past and present and working on course correcting for the future. And then finally, to create a document that communicates the library's intentions and progress to the community. So the committee collected data from 2 surveys and a public forum before we went ahead to start writing. The first survey focused on responses from library users, and then we also did a second survey that focused on responses from community organizations whose missions overlap with the libraries. And then the public forum, once again, dealt with public library users. So we distributed a public survey through physical and digital copies. These copies were available at the Senior Center, Town Hall, and the library. Posters were distributed around town with a QR code that sent people to the website, where the survey was hosted at a banner at the top of the page for the month of September 2021. We also shared social media posts in Hebron groups and on pages of different town departments. The survey was written about in the River East and the library newsletter. In all, we gathered 174 responses, which we were very happy with. For the community partners survey, the committee brainstormed who potential participants could be during its July and August 2021 meetings. These included individuals from the schools, churches, town departments, youth organizations, adult organizations, and the business community. The committee received 11 responses out of the 35 that were requested. And this survey was kind of intended to reveal how different organizations around town view and use library services as a tool potentially to further their own missions, because we view the library as something that businesses and other organizations can take advantage of as well, not just for personal use. And for the public forum, as with the survey, this was well advertised on posters and social media. There's a press release in the River East News Bulletin. Eventually, the forum was held via Zoom in February 2022. This was something we had anticipated holding in person, but unfortunately elected to move it virtual because this was during the Omicron spike last winter. We had 10 attendees. The discussion lasted approximately 90 minutes, and responses were presented to the committee at their March 2022 meeting. So at this point, the committee opted to forego holding additional forums. They felt that we had enough information to begin work on the actual writing of the plan. If you're interested in taking a look at the summary of all the data collected in the surveys and the public forum, if you take a look in the booklet, towards the back, there's appendices that list out responses and the questions. So you can kind of dig into the data a little bit more if you'd like. So we changed the structure of the plan. We're coming off of a plan that we began in 2017. So when we started this process, we had anticipated using that same structure and just kind of changing the goals a little bit as we went along. So the old plan was organized under 5 categories: safe space, technology, diversity, community, and lifelong learning. So after we gathered information and the committee began to write new goals, we thought that our categories could be refined and broadened to fit everything neatly underneath the banners that we wanted them to fit underneath. We ended up with 4 categories instead of 5: welcoming, integral, safe, and evolving. Here's a little bit about how we arrived at those changes. So the committee wanted to come up with categories that represented as many of the library's institutional values as possible. We produced a list by examining the text of our mission and vision statement. So you can look at, we pulled out some specific quotes from the mission and vision statement and identified values that we associated with those terms. And then we also had a discussion and pulled a few more values out that weren't explicitly spelled out in the mission or vision. So we've got things like accessibility and social responsibility, and then privacy and fiscal sustainability as well. So the idea was to try and take all these values and then reframe them as broad goals so that we can make sure that each value was addressed in the plan while also maintaining a manageable number of total goals. So our first goal is the Douglas Library is a welcoming and inclusive environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. So by this, we mean that we provide equitable access to information from a diverse collection of sources and creators in an emotionally safe environment. Everybody should feel, comfortable coming in and browsing our collection and able to search for and look for the information that they're hoping to look for when they're there. We just were using the word safe before, and there was some discussion about physically safe versus emotionally safe. So we decided to split them out into two separate goals here. Next slide, please. Goal number 2 is that the Douglas Library is an integral part of the Hebron community. By that we mean it's an active participant in local events, and we're part of local discussions, that our services are trusted and accessible to the members of the community, and that we have a desire to build upon and improve the community that we reside in. Our third goal is that the library is a safe environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. So here's where we talk a little bit about a physically safe environment. So the facility is well maintained. We have appropriate security protocols and policies in place to protect the well-beings of patrons and also the collection. And our final goal is the Douglas Library provides ever-evolving services, collections, and technologies to its users. So this is just that we're always pushing forward to improve the services that we're offering, to be innovative when we can be, and to constantly evaluate the services that we're offering so that we can determine whether they're still relevant. Are there ways that we can improve them? Are they cost effective? Are they still appropriate for the community? So to be looking for new services and also reevaluating everything that we're doing right now. So this is just jumping back to that slide that we looked at further, where we pulled values out from our mission and vision statement, and I color coded them, so you can see that with these 4 goals, we've kind of hit on all of those values with at least one of the statements. There's a handful that cross over into more than one. So once again, here are our 4 overarching goals. Douglas Library is a welcoming and inclusive environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. The Douglas Library is an integral part of the Hebron community. The Douglas Library is a safe environment in which to pursue lifelong learning. And the Douglas Library offers ever-evolving services, collections, and technologies. Our core goals happen to be an acronym for the word WISE, which is Kismet, because we're trying to make smart decisions and also provide resources so the community can educate itself. But those are the overarching goals, and behind each one of those goals is a series of quantifiable, measurable goals and a specific plan in place for accomplishing them. I'd invite everybody to take a look at the full plan at douglaslibrary.org. If you want to take a look more at the specific goals that make up the larger goals and how we anticipate working towards them over the next 5 years. While you're on the website, apply for a library card, check out some of our other services. So thank you for your time. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Just questioning, how do you feel, did you meet the goals that you had for the previous 5 years?
Yeah, I think we did. The previous plan was useful. We addressed it in every meeting and tried to work towards those goals. I had felt that those goals were a little bit squishy and that they weren't as specific as they could be, and that was something we were looking to change with this new 5-year plan. So we achieved the goals that we had before, but it was a little bit difficult to tell, where they stopped and started sometimes.
And one other thing, I know you had done I probably screwed it up, but the the biblionation, some of that, are you seeing a change in what people, either the technology or what people are going or utilizing the library nowadays as compared to even 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, we both are and we aren't. One thing that we saw in our survey was that the services you kind of classically associate with a library are the ones that people really want us to keep bringing, and they're really are the most important thing to them. Us having physical books to check out is really what most people want out of their library, which is logical, but we're always kind of looking forward and trying to make sure that we're keeping up with what technology allows us to do. Especially throughout the pandemic, people have in town have pushed more into our digital services, and ebooks and e-audio has gotten a lot more popular. So you can check out things on a Kindle, you can listen to audiobooks in your car, you can do all that without ever entering the library, and that makes up about a quarter of our circulation now, and that is a jump, since we've come back more in person. That there are still a lot of people using those materials more than before the pandemic. But we're also trying to just make it more convenient to get in and use things. One thing that's been really popular over the past year is the locker system that's been put out front. People love the idea of being able to get things from the library, even if they don't have to. They have their kids in the car. They don't want to have to take everybody out of their car seats, drag them upstairs to pick up a book they want and come back. This allows them to just kind of walk up the sidewalk, pick up their book and leave, or show up at 2 a.m. when they get off second shift and, get their items that way. So, yes, people are using libraries in different ways, but in a lot of ways it is the standard services that people want, the internet access, the physical books and the DVDs.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions? Or Tiffany, Peter? I don't know if Mark's still on.
I'll just hop in really quickly. I think it's terrific. The only thing I'm going to say is that I really do appreciate the intentionality behind, creating a goal about the library being a welcoming and inclusive environment with a diversity of materials and in a safe learning space. I personally have been quite disturbed at what I see across the country and even in Connecticut with attacks on our libraries, which is sad to see because it was a place I loved growing up as a young girl in my small town. And so I just want to say that I appreciate the intentionality behind that goal. Thank you.
Peter, please.
Yeah, first of all, Kevin, I know you represent a broader group, but I just, want to take an opportunity to, every time I see a presentation like this, in terms of the opportunity to thank you for the commitment and your team for the commitment you make, and obviously the work that goes behind supporting an endeavor like this is terrific and obviously indicative of the quality of the community in which we live in. So I thank you for that. And so I just wanted to expand a little bit on Dan's comments about, I was just curious, as you think back over the last few years and then in the development of this new strategic plan, was there anything relative to the pace of technology and libraries that surprised you, the evolution, whether it, people didn't stray as far as you thought, or was there any element of sort of the pace in which technology's changed that surprised you relative to the utilization of library and library services?
I think so. I mean, the idea that people, I'm a very technology forward person. It very much excites me, and I love being able to kind of push and look for new ways to do things. So it was a little enlightening for me to see how much people were very much wanted to make sure that what we had more than anything else were kind of like the classics as far as what you consider. We've had 3D printers lately in here in the library that have just gets a ton of attention. It's interesting. I can't completely predict what it is that the community will respond to. I know that they like to see us trying new things, and they're always they're always interested in engaging with us when we do, and some things stick a little more than others. But yeah, they're always, people are always interested in engaging with us. And I appreciate what you're saying about the committee and the staff. We have a tremendous staff at the library and a really great group of board members and volunteers too.
It's unfortunate that Gail isn't feeling well. I know this would be obviously something that she'd be very excited to have a conversation about, and obviously isn't here to feel the support and to hear the presentation. So I know our thoughts are with her as she recovers. But thank you. I really hope that the public continues to be enlightened as to how modern the library services are and how you really have kept up with the times and are positioning yourselves for the future to provide those services. And that it's a vibrant and integral part of our future. And so it's great that you have an opportunity to present this, and I hope people within the public take the time to look through the presentation, the material, and reach out as need be to get more information. So thank you again for your time and the efforts that you put forth.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Kevin, I'd like to thank you, and I share the sentiments of the other board members. And I guess being a police officer, having driven through the parking lot for years, I realize how many people go in and out of there, and sometimes it's a lot more busy than others. And I think you must feel the support that we all have for the library. And we couldn't disappoint Gail anyway and not have support of the library, because she was very displeased with all of us. So you have a lot going for you here. So keep up the good work, Kevin.
Thank you. I'm lucky to be in a town that supports the library like they do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Peter Casarella, a member, a trustee
Yes,
of the
sir.
library.
Yes, sir.
Listening to everything that's just been going on this evening, thank you very much, and thank the selectmen very much for their support. But it's very important also to add that not only do we have a dedicated staff at the library, we have an immense amount of help and support through town hall, whether it's Andy or Donna, Kevin Kelly. It's just been great support of the town to help foster the library and keep it moving. So we look forward to your acceptance and approval of the plan so we can implement it and keep running forward with it. Again, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I'll read the motion. We can open it up for a quick discussion and go from there. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen endorse and accept the Douglas Library Strategic Plan as presented and express appreciation to the Strategic Planning Committee and Library Board of Trustees for their dedication and commitment to providing quality library services. And I will say that I had talked to Gail earlier this afternoon when she was actually just coming back from her latest doctor's appointment, and she was commenting about how pleased she was and happy she was on how this strategic plan came together. So I know she, by all means, supports this. Any other comments? Going once, twice, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
And myself, aye. So, thank you. Thank you. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, and you too.
You too. Thank you.
Did you, Andy, did you want to discuss?
Yes, item B. I'm sorry, item 9B. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, the chief couldn't be with us tonight. He had another engagement, but I don't think it was needed for him to be here. I think I can explain it. So in front of you, you have approved Connecticut Water Firefighter Support Grant application. Attaches the information for Connecticut Water regarding the grant program for fire departments. The fire department is requesting the Board of Selectmen approve to submit the grant application. The fire department intends to purchase a hydrant valve if awarded the grant. So the grant's where I think it's worth around $1,500. There's no match from the town. And it's listed there, it's in the motion below $1,500. And there's no match, so I think this is a no-brainer. If we apply for it and we get it, it's just that much better for them.
And again, anytime we can get grants, it's, the amount of taxpayers' money that we have been able to save through our town staff getting these grants is literally incredible. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen approve the Connecticut Water Firefighter Support Grant Program application in the amount of $1,500 and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, to apply for, accept, and receive the grant if awarded. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
And myself, aye. Okay. Our next would be
Next
the
is the town manager's
annual
annual
evaluation.
evaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just, can you hear me or no?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dan.
No,
I didn't
please.
mean- I didn't mean to cut you off. So this is put on the agenda, it's that time of year again, you gotta start thinking about it. I know Gail in the past was one of the spearheads, but, due to the, her situation, I don't know if you guys wanna figure out who's, normally 2 out of the 5 selectmen work on this, or 3, but they come up with a plan, do the evaluation, and move it forward, pull a number for budgetary purposes to plug it in when we do the budget. So this is a appropriate time to start thinking about that.
Correct. And I know Gail was wanting to discuss this tonight. We've been kind of behind the 8 ball on some of this, and she's trying to get us back on track. And of course, with her not being able to be here, she's been involved with this system for a number of years now. It's usually one person from each party. I'm sure it's going to be Gail. So if you and Tiffany, you and Mark want to discuss who would want to work with her, please feel free.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to volunteer. I don't know how Mark feels, but I did help Gail last year because she reached out to me. So I'm happy to continue doing that, but I'm also most happy to defer to Mark if he would like to do it this year.
I can tell just from the expression on his face, he is deeply saddened that you don't want him to die.
Hey, it seems last year's evaluation was like decades ago. I didn't even remember that you did that, Tiffany. So if you want to continue with that, I have no objection to that whatsoever.
It does feel like it was a long time ago. I agree.
It does.
I'm happy to do it. I would just ask Mr. Chair if Gail or you or wants to reach out to me, if I can get started on any kind of paperwork, just let me know. You have my email.
I will have Gail reach out to you because I utterly clueless in what she does.
And Mr. Chairman, if
so at this point, yes, Peter.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If Gail needs some help in her transition, I have a significant amount of experience, at least in the private sector, in evaluations, in both the structure and implementation of evaluations, and I'm happy to support Tiffany if Gail needs help. And I don't know what her status is in her transition, but if she needs any assistance when you speak to her, please, by all means, let her know that I'm happy to assist if she needs any assistance.
I will reach out to her tomorrow and see just where she wants to go, because she may. I mean, it's very possible. I know she was just a hurting puppy tonight.
I spoke to her. Yeah, no, I'm not looking to replace her. But if she feels like it might be too much for her at this juncture, I don't want her to take on more than she's comfortable taking on. So I'm just there to support her. If you need a representative of the the other party to work with Tiffany, I'm happy to do that. But again, only if she needs help. I'm not looking to bump her out. I just want to make
Oh,
sure
no.
she knows that she doesn't have to shoulder that half of the burden if it's not the right time for her.
I think she would be very appreciative of that. Because as I say, it's
Yeah.
going to be a long road.
Yeah,
she-
I spoke to her. Yeah, God, she's a tough woman. That's a tough injury. I mean, that's a significant injury, and God bless her. So yeah, she got a long road.
Okay, great. I will do that tomorrow. I will reach out to her and I will reach out to both of you or have her reach out to both of you to set up the whatever system you people utilize for that. Okay. Next, Andy,
Next, you have the
draft
draft
agenda.
agenda for, December 15th.
And again, like always, if you have anything to add or what have you, just get it into the staff, just so that it can get added onto the documents. So that should be that. Is there any other new business? Not that I know of. Anybody have anything new that needs to get brought up? Okay, hearing none, moving forward. Our next item would be our consent agenda. And this is, usually consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature, which the board may or may not want to discuss individually and may be voted on as a group. Any board member who wishes to discuss a particular item in this section may request the chair to remove it for later discussion and a separate vote if necessary. And at this point, it's only the November 17th, 2022 regular meeting, and then the tax refunds as listed.
Chairman
Yeah.
Larson, excuse me, it's Donna. It's only going to be the tax refunds. We do not have those minutes yet. We'll add them to the next agenda and get them out to you as soon as we have them.
Thank you, because I'm looking saying, I've never seen the minutes of the meeting, and I know I've been just flat out, and so it could be just me, but I'm glad to know that I didn't miss it. So it's really the tax refunds, and again, I just don't know why my name never appears. No, that's not a story. So move the Board of Selectmen approve the consent agenda items, i.e. tax refunds as listed. Any discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye. Tiffany?
Tiffany Teely, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, our next thing would be our liaison reports. Going down the line, Peter?
Nothing from me this meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Tiffany?
Also nothing from me at this point, Mr. Chair.
Mark?
Just quickly, we're all aware of what happened at RAM recently. I'd like to just mention what a great job the school resource officer did in doing what needed to be done, a good investigation. Always does everything compassionately and with empathy, but stands up for what needs to be stood up for, and makes a good decision. And things like that can't be swept away or ignored or not allowed to get out into the public because it matters. And sometimes the police get a bad rap for things like that, but we got a great school resource officer over there, so I just wanted to make that comment. Nothing
Okay.
further to report.
And it just expounding on that and so many things, it's just amazing. It's people seem to be getting more and more polarized on different things on all fronts. and I see it worldwide. You look at what's going on in other countries. It's disheartening. As a species, we're destroying ourselves. Anything? I don't have anything. So, Andy, do you have anything?
Just quickly, the pump stations are moving along. They're over to Old Railroad now. You can see that if you travel Route 85 down in the southern part of town. You'll see some barricades. They're down there working on that one. So parts are now somewhat readily available, and they're being able to put those things together. So they're moving along a lot better than they were a couple months ago
Okay.
on the pump stations.
Chatham Health, anything on that?
In regards to,
I happened to read on the internet, they're talking about a trifecta of, and maybe Tiffany, I think you may have broached it a touch, COVID, flu, and there was something else as a major pandemic or whatever. Chatham Health seeing anything coming down the pike that we have to start concerning ourselves with or our community with?
well, I think Tiffany or somebody said earlier, that there's, like 15 deaths or something just this week in, I think, Connecticut, but a lot more people are in the hospital with COVID. The Chatham Health District, I just had a meeting with them, which I chair this week, and they're out there giving all the vaccinations, flu shots, booster shots, things of that nature, and they're going to keep doing the clinics as long as people keep coming to them. So their ideology of, as long as people keep trying to, defend themselves from the disease and get vaccinated, the least ramp up you're going to see. So some point of reference last year was we were really ramping up right now, and we're not seeing that this year, but it doesn't mean it's gone by any means. So as people, we just had Thanksgiving, and as people starting to trend inside with the weather getting colder and a little bit not as nice to be outside, more inside gatherings, I think you're going to see somewhat of an increase as we're starting to see now. But no, there's nothing alarming yet, but they still are pressing to, do your best to, avoid getting it, get your booster shots, wear a mask, wash your hands, try to keep large gatherings to a minimum if you can, things like that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I guess our last thing would again be our public comment. Mr. Tomonari, I don't know if you can just pop on. I don't know.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am here. And I have a comment, please.
Okay.
Thank you. I thank you. Thank you all for your efforts as usual. The townwide survey, I think it sounds like a great idea. Certainly, this is a question that everyone in town should be involved with. I would have some concern over the crafting of the questions. I think that is vital. Committee was mentioned to help create these questions, and I would be happy to volunteer to serve on that committee because I think the way you ask a question, you can get a certain answer. Some of my other concerns of what was mentioned here tonight, I'm surprised to hear that moving the transfer station would add $20 million to the cost of the public works. That seems surprising. And but really I have a lot of concerns about what I heard tonight as far as mischaracterizations of myself and my neighbors and some of the efforts of the few people that have been vocal in this. Well, if you guys think this is easy and I take this lightly, then you're deeply mistaken. This isn't easy. This is very difficult. I spent a lot of time and effort into creating and finding information that is real, scientific, historic information. I really suggest, Mr. Rivera, that you read the letter that I wrote and submitted in tonight's agenda. Your statements that history is everywhere in Hebron and that the environment is the same wherever, that's simply not right. That's incorrect. History is not evenly spread out over the town. This is a very historic area. So I suggest you read some of the information that I provided. The environmental information can be found in the environmental review team report from 2000 that the town manager has, that I submitted to this committee already. I suggest you read that and try to understand the hydrogeology and the fractured bedrock that exists in this area. That is the risk to our wells. And it's not just the salt shed. The salt shed can be lined and perfectly entombed in itself, but the trucks have to come and go. The delivery of that salt, the movement of that salt from the shed to the roads. It's already estimated 50 trips a day on an average day of truck traffic coming and going from that facility. How many more times is that going to be during a winter event when salt is moving constantly? Is that going to be 100 trips? And it has to cross wetlands one way or the other to get in and out of that property. So I would hope that you investigate that and look at some of the scientific information. This is not opinion. I don't make this stuff up. I don't go posting it on the website willy-nilly. Please visit Kinney Road Matters on Facebook and look at the information that I provide. It's all quoted. All my sources are documented. So, and among them anyway, okay. I'm sorry. So this is an emotional topic for me, and I do get emotional. But, you know, this is important to my life, my home, my investment, my house, but my town. I love this town. I've been here for 21 years, and I grew up in Glastonbury. This is what Glastonbury was like when I was a kid. I want Hebron to respect that and not turn into something that it's not. I want Hebron to respect the environment and the history that I love. And I think that most of the people in the town come here to enjoy. So I just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to support Mr. Tulamari being on the committee because I think every voice should be heard, and he's passionate about how he feels. So I would support that.
Okay. And I agree. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Going once? Going twice? Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.